Good evening, and welcome to the Emerson Institute at City of Light. I'm Reverend Dr. Paul Gretz, and it's a delight to welcome you to tonight's class on spiritual economics. We're coming to you live from the Dr. Angelo Pizzello Wisdom Center here on the third floor of our campus at City of Light, located at 3125 Presidential Parkway, Atlanta, Georgia. Well, tonight's class is all about a new look at prosperity, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what that really means for our life. For it is God's desire that we live a life of prosperity. That's right, prosperous. We'll find that more as we discuss tonight's class notes and go over that, so we hope you have your note packet ready. If you've not received a note packet, please reach out to me at revtpaul@aol.com. I'll make sure that our registrar, Dr. David Carter, make sure that you receive the notes prior to every class via email. So if you're joining us through the live streaming, we want to make sure you're equipped to follow along and you've got a note packet that helps you just to reread, refresh you after the class, go over these notes to just make sure that the teaching sinks deep within. And for those of you who are joining us tonight in our class environment in person, we're glad to have each and every one of you. And you also have your note packets, and let's just dig in to tonight's teaching. We want to encourage you to engage in dialogue. So if you're joining us through live streaming, we encourage you to type in questions. Our media team will be monitoring the Facebook postings and alerting me, and I'll carry on a dialogue with you, answer any questions that you may have. We want to make sure that we're doing this searching work together in study. We want to engage as many people as we can. And for those of you joining us in classroom, just raise that hand and say, hey, I don't quite get this, or help me understand this clearer in a more concise way. So we want to encourage that open dialogue and discussion throughout our entire evening tonight. So to begin, let's just reset our consciousness, and let's just do this through a simple breathing exercise. We're going to breathe in through our nose, hold for a moment, and then breathe out and just release the stress, tension, and distractions of the day. We're going to do that 3 times and just allow our body to reset, to be more present in this moment right here and now. So join with me. Let's breathe in together. Breathe in, hold, and release. Deep breath in and release. Deep breath in and release. And in a moment of silence, set your intention. Just hold that thought in mind. What do you want to receive tonight during this time that we share together? What would you like to experience? Set that intention. Experiencing greater insight, greater presence and awareness of this love of God in our life, whatever it may be, let's just set that intention right now. And so it is. All right, well, let's dig into tonight's class. It's session number 11 in spiritual economics. We're looking at this exciting chapter on a new look at prosperity, or called a new look at tithing. A lot of people will say to me, tithing, what's that all about? How does that fit in with my prosperity? How does that work for me in the journey of my spiritual life? First of all, what we want to understand is that in the spirit of our spiritual evolution of the soul, we want to understand the joy of generosity. It's a key component in our life. And that we engage in the law of sowing and reaping, and that is the sowing of generosity within our life. We can feel that strong comfort to be more generous when we move out of a consciousness of lack that says, well, I can't be generous. I don't have enough. That's lack. That's thinking from a perspective that wants to rise up within us. You don't have enough. There's not enough to go around. There's no way you can be generous. There's just not possible for us to share in the spirit of generosity. And there's not enough for me. How will I make my bills? How will I make ends meet? How do I do all this? And then, of course, when we find opportunities that are proposed to us for giving, some of us may feel like, in the consciousness of lack, and in the thinking there's not enough, we begrudgingly give. Well, all right, I'll give, but dang nabbit, I'm really stressed and worried that there's not enough for me to be generous in any way whatsoever. Well, let's just take a look at the very spiritual law within our life of sowing and reaping, of the spirit of generosity it stems from an attitude, number one, that obliterates this idea of lack and replaces it with the wonderful consciousness that you live in abundance and that there's enough. When we shift this attitude, when we change our thinking from, I can't see the cup even being half full, to, oh, the cup is more than half full, in fact, my cup runneth over, we shift that kind of attitude to living in the realm of abundance. And this is the gateway to our amazing prosperity and blessing in our lives. God desires prosperity in your life to be flourishing and abundant and growing. There's a lot of people who say, well, wait a minute. I don't know if I really can grasp this idea of prosperity in our life. We hear a lot of prosperity preachers on television saying, you give to me, you sacrifice to me, while I go out and have a $5 million home. Now, I'm not here to be judgmental, but let's just not let that be something that hinders us or holds us back from this wonderful, powerful law of generosity flowing in our life and creating a divine flow within us. An awareness, it's an attitude that says, I can be generous because I know I live in divine flow. Divine flow says there's more coming as I give out. There's more coming to me. Too often our focus is on, I look at what I have in this moment and I think that's all I have. But there's more yet to come. There are more blessings to come. And when we have this consciousness that there's more blessings to come, what do? We are living in this law of attraction, that we now say, I live in the realm of divine flow. And as I give, I know there's more coming to me. I attract more coming to me. I attract divine goodness coming to me in all different ways. I live in this realm of abundance. Jesus said, I'm come that you might have life and life abundantly. Life abundantly is this understanding of prosperity. It didn't mean, that you might have life abundantly, meant just like you have a real fullness of life, that you live 99 years or you live well beyond life expectancy. It's about the abundance of each and every day and every moment of your life, to live in this wonderful sense of abundance, that abundance is there as we are open to the divine source of goodness working in our life at all times. There's a story of Lawrence of Arabia, and in this story, he invited all of these Arab chieftains to go to Paris and to have this conference on peace. So many of these Arab chieftains left their environment, their homeland, for the very first time, coming to Europe, coming to Paris, and experiencing all the modern conveniences of a Parisian hotel. They arrived, and what they were most stunned with was that there was this strange thing in the bathroom. And you could turn this knob, and water would come out. And they're like, wow, we're from a desert culture, and there's water coming from these silver things that I just turn around, and there's an abundance of water. It's not just water once, it's water every time I turn it. And it's amazing. And so when the chieftains returned back to their homeland, it was interesting that what they had in their bags were faucets. That's right. They had taken all the faucets from the hotel, thinking that the faucet was the source of all of that abundant water. They thought, I need this faucet. If I take it home and I put it in my tent and I turn it, I'll have abundance of water. I'll never have to go and look for it. I'll never have to haul water. I'll never have to have... But the faucet is not the source. Here's where we lose sight in life. We've forgotten where the source is. The source is not your paycheck. The source of your goodness and blessing is not your job or your career. The source of goodness is not your Social Security or stimulus check. That's not the source. The source is God. God is the source of your infinite blessings. And we may hold on to faucets and knobs and whatever we can that we think these are the symbols of abundance for our life, like we are holding on to our paycheck and we're holding on to this and holding on to that, thinking that's the divine source. that's not the divine source. That's the tool for the divine source to use and to work through. But there's more than that. Just like those who had taken the faucet is the tool for the water to come to you. The handles, the faucet, the knobs, whatever it may be, those are just the tools. But there's a source of water well behind that. And in our life, what we have to understand is there is a divine source of goodness, a blessing, a provision that is abundant, that is flowing freely in our lives at all times. We may have shut the flow off by our lack of awareness and consciousness of this divine flow. We're thinking, I live in limitation. I live in lack. I live in just this much. This is all I have. Or I like to say, people who want to say, I live in a fixed income. It's fixed, it's stuck. That's not true at all. Because when you say that, you're denying that divine flow is passing through you or around you or ready to provide for you in infinite blessings. So we have to shift a consciousness. We have to have a new attitude. We have to look at things differently. A new look at tithing, a new look at our prosperity. Malachi chapter 3 verse 10 says, "Bring ye the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house, and prove me now herewith, saith Jehovah of the hosts. If I will not prove, I love this, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing." This was a wonderful Old Testament passage inviting us to understand this cycle of prosperity and blessing, which was centered around bringing a tithe being 10%. 10% of all that you've been blessed with. Wait a minute, let's just stop for a moment. What did we just say? All that we've been blessed with. Where did all these things that we come from for the first place? They're blessings of God, right? Our jobs, our paychecks, all these things are really illustrating to us that the divine flow is around us, and these are the evidence of divine flow already working. Let's not limit ourselves to these things. Let's open our mind to infinite possibilities of God could provide for us in many other ways than just a paycheck or a Social Security or a stimulus check. There's all kinds of ways for the divine abundance to come to our life. This is the divine flow. And what is divine flow is that this is the care of God providing for us and our prosperity in our blessing. And the request is that we share a portion back. The command is that we give 10% back to where we are being nurtured, where we're being fed, where we're being spiritually uplifted and encouraged. So what we want to do is that's the storehouse. That's where symbolizing the storehouse is where all the nurturing, the storehouse of the feeding of your spiritual life. That there always may be more feeding for your spiritual life. Now it's interesting. God's not asking for 90%. God's not asking for 70%, 50%, 40%, but 10%. And saying the remaining 90% is for you and your living expenses and for you to live off of, but 10%, give it back in this wonderful reciprocal experience of generosity, of saying, I've been blessed, I give a portion back. I've been blessed, I give a portion back. And what we're doing is stimulating divine flow. We're stimulating this. In ancient times, tithing was actually an obligation. Nothing voluntary about it at all. The Mosaic Code was very rigidly enforced. Tithing was something where the Israelites were required to do this. Tithing can be a way of getting into this giving consciousness, this awareness, but it's not a substitute for a giving attitude. So here's the thing. We may find environments where people are saying, it's the rule of this church. And there are churches that may say, when you become a member, we need to see your income statements. We need to see this from your W-2 form. And we'll now regulate what your tithe is to be. And we're insisting, if you're going to be a member, that you tithe. You see, what happens then, we create a bill. How many of you love bills? How many of you are like, oh, I'm excited. I love a bill. Please bring me more bills. You see, no one enjoys that. We like to pay off the bill. We like to be free from that bill. But when a new one comes, we go, oh, here's another bill. You see, what happens then is too many of our spiritual environments are creating something that is diminishing the very joy of giving, the cheerfulness of being a giver. So instead, the attitude is, do I have to? Really? Must I? Okay, if I have to, I will. Versus, I joyously give because my attitude is, I know I live in abundant blessing. I can give because there's more coming to me. It's not the spirit of giving to get as much as it is on knowing that I'm in this divine flow and that's where I live. The divine flow is coming through me, flowing through me. It's like some people say, hey, I'd love to love more people. I'd love to love people in the world. But there's only so much love I have. And if I give it to you and to you and to you, I may run out of love. And then there's an awakening, go, wow, I realize I can love my dog, I can love my neighbors, I can love the world around me, I can love my family, I can love my parents. And you know what? There's more love that rises up within me. Is there an end to the amount of love within you? No, there's not. Because we find that as we love, we can love even more. And the more we exercise love, it's like a fountain going up within us that's bubbling over and over again, and it springs forth. And there's more behind it. And the more that we love, the more love seems to flow through our life. Well, that's the attitude around generosity and of giving. The more we are generous, the more that it rises up within us is the power and possibility of being generous in greater ways than ever before. So let's not create anything that diminishes a joyful, cheerful attitude of giving. Let me tell you this, if you're giving begrudgingly, all the spiritual law, all the goodness that's there is being dampened and hindered. To tell you the truth, keep your money because you already believe you can't give. You're giving begrudgingly. So just keep it because you're always in the mindset of lack. God can't provide for me. There's not going to be enough. I can't make it. I only have so much. Now, if I give to someone else, how will it be enough for me? So we become spiritual hoarders of the goodness of God. You might as well just keep it. Because to those who hoard, you're going to lose anyway. But to those who give, who acknowledge they have more comes to them. It's a spiritual law that we live in. It's this beautiful passage within Scripture that invites us to understand when we have this attitude, I have plenty. I have plenty to give. We share generously and we stimulate this divine flow within our life. But when the attitude is, I don't have enough and I give begrudgingly, what happens is we begin to slow that cycle of blessing down and it gets slower and slower and soon we lose. We have less. Is there a comment coming in?
I have a question.
Question from Dr. David Carter.
Okay, so in ancient times, the Levites, the tribe of Levi, they were the priests. And so the way they were supported was with the tithe, right?
Right.
Okay, and so if every story is our story too, so in essence, all our ministers of today, ministers, priests, what you call them, you all are Levites in that sense.
Yes.
Us.
That's the symbolism.
Okay,
Yes.
So here's my question. Okay, so if a person gives and they give out of a spirit of generosity, but what they're being asked to give is not really, I don't want to use the word fair, but let's say you're at a church and you want to join, and one of the conditions is we have to see your W-2.
Right.
And based on that, they say we need to give this amount, regardless of what else is going on in your life, and you're trying to do that, but the people who are telling you that that's what you need to give are in essence robbing you, but you are doing it out of spirit of generosity because you think that is the correct thing to do. So are you blessed more because you're being robbed as you do it, or even if it's an astronomical amount, because you give from the heart, you're blessed with abundance anyway.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's all about the attitude. And remember, let's separate the giver and the receiver, okay? In this illustration you're giving of someone who's been demanded to give a certain amount, and it's really difficult on their finances, shall we say. Number one, when their attitudes shift, there's nothing difficult when we're in the realm of God. There's nothing difficult. Everything comes to us effortlessly and with great ease when we're in that full trust of the divine providence unfolding for our life, the divine goodness. So there's nothing difficult. But when we give and someone else may be hoarding, or it's for their selfish blessing, or we're giving to bless someone, and again, we may be judging them, and let's remove all judgment. So whatever they do with their money, whatever they do as a recipient, is between them and God, okay? Has nothing to do with you. So what we want to do is err, shall we say, more on the side of generosity than to err on the side of being stingy. Because the spirit of generosity will bring far greater blessing, and the spirit of being stingy, based on judgments, lack of trust, may be causing more hindrance to our own life. So what we want to do is we always want to be in divine flow, to participate in divine flow. When we allow divine flow to flow through us, that's right, to flow through us, that means we are participants in that spirit of flow, that it flows from me to you, to whatever. It flows from me to another source. It flows from me to another place. So divine flow, once it's flowing through you, means that there's more coming behind you, that we're allowing it to flow through, okay? So it doesn't say it just flows through and it stops, but we're always living in divine flow every moment of our life. That's the sheer essence of being this cheerful giver who has this consciousness of knowing, I know I live in the abundance, divine direction of God. I can't illustrate this enough. It's been a core value for my life, as my father taught me as a young preacher's kid, going into ministry. Never ask the salary before you say yes to the job. Because your work is first to ask, is this where I should be? Is this the job that I should take for me to fulfill the journey of my life? Is this a calling I have? If all those things you're answering yes to, and you really feel that this is where God wants you to be, when God guides, God provides. When God guides, God provides. And I've taken to positions over the years where after I said yes and signed the contract and agreed, moved in, they told me, we're going to try to pay you this. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's a whole lot less than... But in every context, I've been in immense blessing, always cared for, and divine providence working in my life. Steve has a comment.
When we talk about the attitude is, I think the difference between success and failure. The success of our giving, when we give, in the front of our mind, we tend to think we're doing this, unconditionally, but there's that little voice in the back of our mind saying, okay, but what's in it for me? If I'm doing this, I expect some kind of a return. How do we keep that in check? Because I feel like that thought of what's in it for me is really sabotaging our efforts of the actual generosity of
Here's the thing. Everyday living, there's something in us for us. We need not be greedy. We need not even focus on that. We need to just relax and receive, knowing that it's going to be there. So we don't have to have this tense energy that says, well, if I give, I'm expecting X, Y, and Z. I just give. And you know that the spirit of unconditional generosity with no attachments whatsoever is about divine flow flowing through you. It's going to be there. It's going to be happening. Rather than insisting, you're just allowing. Rather than saying, I demand it or I expect it with the sense of like, it better show up, you just allow it, it does. And it's amazing how it happens. What we're not really good with in our world is understanding the word unconditional, okay? We're not really good with that. I spent some wonderful time with my family, visiting my son and my daughter and their grandchildren this past week, and experiencing this wonderful journey of unconditional love. Not love that says, wait a minute, I see my son and what happened? You're growing your hair out, and that's not a good look for my son. And, he needs to get it more shaven, cleaned up. And, I don't know if I can accept this. And, my granddaughter wants to do X, Y, and Z, and my child wants to do this. What? I'm only going to love them if, hey, wait a minute, you've got to do these things for me and things act right. And wait, is that the kind of love? Or is it unconditional love that just says, hey, cool, interesting hairstyle? Or cool, I love the fact that you're into this, or that you do certain things, or things that maybe are different than maybe what I would do. See, unconditional love is, I just love you. Now, the love that's conditional always creates some sort of conflict and barrier. Like, you should be cutting that hair, and you should be looking different, and you should be doing X, Y, and Z, and then I'll love you, and I'm going to restrain. Instead of saying, hi, I'm just so glad to be with you. Let me give you a big hug. Let me just love you. I don't care about the issues. I'm just being unconditional with the love. And in that, it's amazing what happens with the unconditional element, the love that comes right back. And what happens then is the wonderful evolution of accepting one another just as they are on their individual pathway for who they are and where they're headed in their lives. Unconditional. There's no condition. It's just, I love. So it is in the spirit of generosity. It's unconditional. There's no conditions. I just want to give. I just want to celebrate the joy of generosity, which says in heart and mind and soul, I know I live in plenty. I live in abundance. I live in prosperity. And until we embrace that, there's no way we can truly be a cheerful giver. Because we're always thinking, oh, if I give, how am I going to make it? Is it going to be enough? We're constantly questioning. And it becomes conditional then. I'll give, God, but dagnabbit, you better come up with some more money for me. You better make a way. Like we're doubting that God would, because every seed that is sown will bring a harvest. Every gift that you share in the spirit of generosity with your world is a seed, and it's going to bring about a harvest. So as you plant these seeds, the attitude of that seed is, I live in the realm of infinite abundance. God is blessing me all around. And there's a spirit of gratitude for what you have, and a gratitude that is so overwhelming that says, I've got to share a little bit of what I've been blessed with. I'm not giving it all. I'm sharing a portion of it. And how beautiful that is that we understand that we are making a shift. Now, there's some people who say, can I get away with a 1% tithe? How about if I skimp a little bit? Can I get away with just giving you maybe 3%? I'm going to understand to people that I encourage you to begin, and it may be a process of working to that 10%. But Malachi refers to the whole tithe of 10%, not 9%, not 7%, not 6%. It means that we are just open to the whole experience. And we understand that the whole experience is for each and every one of us. It's not just our money, because that money that is given to us is a blessing of the divine flow already evident within our life. So Jesus criticized the Pharisees for tithing without love. Giving, not in a spirit of cheerfulness, but giving without love. He could have been implying that they tithe decimally, by 10%, but not spiritually. So we see a big difference here in our lives. And I just got jammed up on my notes here. Comment here, yes.
Okay, so how would you counsel the person who's unemployed? They don't have unemployment benefits, and they are newly awakening to what they should be doing. Would you tell them, well, if you don't have anything to give as far as money goes, there's other ways you can give. You could come clean the church. You could, and in the process of that person doing that and doing it from a place of wanting to be generous, then they would be in the flow, right? Even though they didn't have money to give, but they gave up their time to work, at the church as a way of tithing.
So there's a balance here, yes. Any kind of form of generosity of giving is beautiful. Giving of time, talents, treasures, whatever. Any spirit of generosity is powerful. But let me tell you this. When it comes to your financial prosperity, we have to give of that means. So encouraging someone says, well, and a lot of people are afraid to give $1 but let me tell you this. Any gift that you're giving is demonstrating that this energy that money is, there's more of that energy coming to me. But when people say, well, I don't have any money, any of this energy, any of this form to give, I'll give something else. I'll sing in the choir. Okay? But you should be giving a portion of your talent and your treasure and your time, not just substituting talent for treasure. Okay? So when we really want to step into this divine abundance, this divine flow, what we really want it is about utilizing the energy of consciousness and attitude concerning our money. And a lot of people, wait, it's my money. We're holding on to it. And I don't have enough. But I want to tell you this. How do you get more? You prime the pump. By the spirit of giving, you turn that pump. You may prime that pump, and you know how a pump maybe gotten dry a little bit. Sometimes you throw a little water down the pump and it lubricates everything, and more water comes up. More will come because you've started. And people say, I don't have anything to give. And I said, well, if you want to be more in the spirit of abundance and live in that realm of consciousness of this spiritual law, start to give. But I don't have anything to find something to give. And do you have a quarter? Well, yeah, I could give a quarter. Well, then start there. Do you have $1? Well, I could give $1. Do you have $5? Well, yeah, I could also give $5. Do you have 10? Well, I probably could give 10. And before you know it, the consciousness starts running, wow, I really can give a whole lot more than I thought to be a blessing, to be in this divine flow of spiritual. Now, here's our problem. A lot of people want to say, we just see tithing as a rule that the church is using that, spiritual communities are using that to lord over them for their own glory and their own good. It's kind of fabulous here at City of Light, because I want to let you know that, we have this wonderful facility that in many ways generates its own income through the wonderful programs of our collaborative partners in this facility that pays for so much, that provides for the blessing for the congregation. That your gifts here at City of Light are not for new carpet, they're not for paying for this or that, paying for that. The building is providing all that and taking care of you because we're operating in this divine flow. And divine flow is taking care of this congregation. Your gifts are solely for ministry that blesses you. So for ministries, it empowers us to have greater classes, more engaging spiritual services of celebrations on Sunday. It takes care of the ministry that is feeding back to you, okay? So it's not like, oh, here's the pastor saying, I want to get rich. I'm going to tell you this. I'm already in divine flow. I'm already blessed immensely. I'm already living in that. I'm not asking for you to give to support me as the pastor. I'm asking for you to experience what I'm experiencing, that I'm already in this wonderful blessing. I'm already in divine flow. God is making a way that is far beyond the salary I get here, that there's infinite ways of blessing coming to my life. I'm not fixed on a salary based on what is given to me through City of Light as an employee. No, I'm living in the realm of abundance. And I'm inviting you to come to that place too, because I can only tell you from my personal experience of how the divine providence has cared for me and always made a way, when many times there seems to be no way. So unfortunately, my computer has frozen up tonight. And there we go. It just released. All right. Thank you. All right. Let's move on. Jesus criticized the Pharisees for tithing without love. And what he is really implying is that they were looking at the number 10% rather than the attitude of saying, I want to give the fullness of what's asked of me. I want to bless. I have a new attitude about this. It's an attitude that I can. And here's the shift from I can't to I can. I can because I'm in divine flow. I can't because I don't think there's divine flow and I don't believe in divine flow and it ain't working for me and I don't experience it. I can't see it. So it's not ever going to happen for me. And you're right. It won't, because that's your consciousness. It's not going to happen for me. But when we step out in the faith, believing it is happening for me, and I live from that perspective, it's a totally different experience. So the beautiful thing is, it says, prove me now, in this beautiful passage from Malachi. Go ahead, come on. God's saying, put me to the test. That's right. The whole universe is saying, prove me, let me show you, let me demonstrate for you. Here's the one passage that's really saying, put this law to work. Try it and see how it doesn't work for you, how it works for you. God is saying, prove the whole law in action. And this involves going the second mile in meeting obligations, turning the other cheek in relationships, forgiving others 70 times 7. Giving is a way of achieving a high level of understanding of this wonderful consciousness that what we do, we reap. What we do, we sow. And a harvest is always available to us. We don't sow out of greed. We sow out of joy, but we know in divine flow there's more coming. You know, it's like the corn mills, the old water mills, the what do you call them? Water wheels that you see along the rivers beds in the olden times that would grind the grain up. You know, the water flow was coming and rolling the wheel, and the wheel would keep turning. There was never a moment they would say, well, wait. It's turned once, it won't turn again. But, it's going to turn and turn and turn again because there's water flowing. That's right. It's more coming. So the water wheel turns and spills the water out and creates the energy that's moving in this water wheel that's grinding up the grain within the mill, and the water's moving on, and there's more yet to come. When we understand that we're in the stream of God's goodness that's ever flowing. So it's really important that we allow this law to be at work within us. And we allow this law to be proven. Let me tell you this. When you experience a spiritual law at work in your life, it's an amazing aha. Now you've experienced laws within our physical world, such as the law of gravity. If I take a pencil and I drop it, it doesn't go to the ceiling. Where does it go? It goes down to the ground. You know it's going to go to the ground. So when you play basketball, you don't dribble off the ceiling. You don't dribble off the walls. You dribble off the ground, off the floor, off the basketball court. You know that ball is going to go down. It'll spring back up, but it's going to go back down with every action. You know that, and that's how you play the sport, with such confidence in the law of gravity. Okay? And you operate from this wonderful law of gravity every time you get out of bed. You put your foot down on the ground, and you're not floating in your bedroom. You know that gravity is sustaining you. So step by step by step, gravity enables you to move forward and walk. Aha, a law that's at work. An artist will always appreciate the law that when you add green and yellow, or blue and yellow, you get what? Green, right? Anyone ever get pink? Orange? No. But what a comfort it is to know that this law is at work. When I do this and this, I get that. And I know it's going to happen every single time of my life. I have such peace and comfort. These laws are the very promises of God that are bringing you peace and comfort. When you demonstrate one law, the law of sowing and reaping, you'll also know the law of non-resistance also works. You'll know other spiritual laws are also working within our life. They're wonderful spiritual laws that are principles. They're promises of God that say they work. Put them to work. Now, our problem is we don't want to use them because we get lazy. But this is how we're called to live out our prosperity, is by putting to work spiritual laws. So God says, prove me. You just practice this spiritual law and see what happens. Because law will always bring forth the desired result of the law. Okay? You sow tomato seeds? Anyone ever get roses? No. What do you get? Tomato seeds. That's the law, right? So it is when we're sowing kindness, what are we going to get? Hate? No, we're going to get kindness. When we sow love, what are we going to get? Love. When we sow joy, what do we get? Joy. When we sow whatever we sow, we're going to get that coming back to us in the harvest. When we sow generosity, what are we going to get back? The generosity of the divine. It's a law. Let God prove this promise to you. Get the feeling then of being a channel for the flow of good. You're a channel. That's right. And let that flow of good just flow through you. Years ago, I lived in Kenya. And in Kenya, the plumbing system is quite simple. Bathtub drain, the pipe runs outside the house, pours outside to a little channel outside your wall, outside the wall, pours into the ground. Simple as that. Not a fancy drain system, not a fancy sewer system like we have here in the United States. It just pours out into the ground. So your soapy bath water just kind of pours out outside the house and drains into the clay soil of the Kenyan ground that your home is built on. The challenge is sometimes that pipe can be left open. Sometimes there's a screen, but that screen could fall off. And in that dark, damp place, it's a wonderful haven for snakes. Sometimes you go to take a bath and you look to put the bath cork in the bathtub and there's this little flicker. It's the tongue of a snake trapped in your pipes. Now, that's not so comfortable to think that you're going to take a bath with there's some snake trapped in your pipe. You want to get that out, right? You want to clear that out. You need to flush that out. So there's a free-flowing channel of flow to go. So when the water drains out, it drains out easily. It doesn't clog your drain. Your bathtub's not clogged up, and there's just a flow. Well, you and I, we're channels. That's right, for the divine flow. But sometimes our attitude is like a little snake that's crawled in there, that's clogging up our pipe. And it's hindering this blessing, this divine flow that is intended for our lives, that God intends for prosperity and goodness and blessing for each and every one of us. But we've got to get this feeling that we're a channel of good, a divine flow. I'm a channel for generosity. I'm a channel for blessing. I'm a channel that I can be, because I know that as it flows through me, there's more coming through. There's a channel of divine flow that we're called to live in. So it's not to think of what you are giving to, for that can be sometimes giving to be seen by others, but think that what you are giving from, and this feels humble and in realizing that you are simply giving way to this divine flow. What am I giving from versus what am I giving to? Because quite often our spirit of generosity is hindered by, I'm not going to give to that. I'm not going to give to that. Giving to. I'm not giving to this homeless person. They'll probably abuse that money. I'm not going to share generously with you or that because I think you'll squander it. I don't think you'll be wise. So our focus on giving to sometimes clogs up the channel. So when we say, I just want to experience the joy of giving from, I give from this consciousness, this awareness that the divine power presence is at work within me. I give from divine flow. I give from the flow of God. What I give to, it's up to that person, and what they do with the gift, that's between them and the universe, not between me and them. You see? So I can give to lots of things unconditionally because I am about the giving, not what they do with the gift. You see? Now, if I'm all about what you do with the gift, oh, honey, don't get on my Christmas list because I'm going to put all kinds of restrictions. I'm going to say, I'm giving you that sweater, but you're wearing it at the fourth Sunday of every month. that sweater. And I'm giving you this gift, but I want you to this wonderful waffle maker, but you're going to make waffles for me every other day and you'll deliver it to my house. That's why I'm giving you the gift, because I'm giving it conditionally. You see? So honestly, isn't the joy of saying, I'm going to give you this sweater, I'll give you this waffle iron, and what you do with it is yours. And even I've included a return slip. If you want to return it, go ahead. I release it. I had the joy of giving you a gift. And what you do with it is yours. I gave from, not gave to. Dr. David Carter's got a comment.
Okay, but let's say you're giving to an organization that you feel passionately about.
Yes.
And you find out that they're doing something that goes totally against who you are and what you stand for. I mean, so do you use the same principle? You're giving from and not giving to? If it's objectionable to you?
Well, then we have to ask, if it's objectionable to you and you're giving to something that's objectionable to you, is this the storehouse? How is it blessing you? So yes, I mean, you want to say, am I receiving something from this? Now, you may have an objection to something, how they use the money. You know, oh, trust me, over my 42 years of pastoral work in congregations, people have said, I gave to the church, but I'm so mad you painted the women's restroom pink. I will now refrain from giving because, and then the question is, well, are you being spiritually fed? Well, yes. Are you finding your spiritual life enhanced? Is the soul evolving through? Then what do you care that the board of directors chose to paint the bathroom pink? Well, I'm upset. It should have been purple. I wanted it my way. Okay, so then maybe what you're doing is giving unconditionally, and you're giving to rather than giving from. And if you feel this is the storehouse where you're being fed, then let that generosity flow. So does that answer the question?
Sort of, but okay, initially you were being fed by this organization.
Okay.
And they changed channels, so to speak.
So then you stop being fed.
And you just find another outlet to give, right?
Right. Yes. Because if it's not feeding you and you're not being nurturing to you, then why are you supporting it? So there could be someone say, maybe I'm giving to a particular political party, but they've gone way over here and their values are different than what I thought. Well, if it's not feeding your soul, then find something else that is feeding your soul. Certainly we're looking at spiritual communities. Where are you being nurtured spiritually, first and foremost? Then our charity may go beyond to some other things that are ways that we can help our world be a better place. But the 10% is to where your storehouse. Where are you being spiritually fed? Nurture that place where the food is coming from, the spiritual food is coming, so it'll continue, it'll flourish, and always be there. It's kind of like you go to a restaurant and you say, I love me some macaroni and cheese here, and I'm going to stop in and I'm going to pay for that macaroni and cheese. I'm going to buy macaroni and cheese. Well, if everybody stopped buying the macaroni and cheese and one day you wonder, why did it close? You went out of business. Well, because there wasn't a cycle of economic blessing coming in through purchasing their product because people stopped. Well, I like to go there. I want their macaroni and cheese. I just don't want to pay for it, some other people will say. I just want to receive it for free. And then they wonder, why did it close and stop making that favorite macaroni and cheese dish that I love? Why did it give up? Well, because we're not in the spirit of supporting that which nurtures, strengthens, feeds us, or makes a good macaroni and cheese. That kind of is a simple example. So 10% is actually a wise place to start. Woo, start. Really? Start? We're starting a simple discipline. The giving consciousness must continue where the tithe check leaves off. So our spirit of generosity doesn't limit at 10%, but 10% is where we start. And then we express our generosity beyond that. How did some of these incredible billionaires experience such a philanthropy of generosity? Because they know there's more. They don't think there's less. They know there's more. They're making money. They're generating money. So in essence, some of these wealthy people can give away billions of dollars. They're giving it, and it's not just 10%, they're giving well beyond because they have a attitude, a consciousness, awareness of prosperity, not of lack. And so they're living in that consciousness, and it's demonstrating, and the law is working for them. The crux of this statement in Malachi is this: I will open the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing. That's the crux of this whole passage from Malachi. Don't forget that the window of heaven is not somewhere out in the sky. That's not what it's talking about. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within. So what's going to happen is we're going to shatter these rock-hard barriers that have been crusty of saying, I can't, and shatter them with I can, and I can be generous. For the window of consciousness, of awareness of God's infinite blessing is now an attitude that says it's open, divine flow. God is making a way when there seems to make a way every single day of my life. God is making a way, and I live in this infinite blessing. I live in this consciousness. Everything is working for my highest and best. Well, today I was flying back from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Time to teach this class. I left at 4 o'clock from my home where my son lives and headed for the airport. Today was going to be a crazy flight day on Southwest Airlines. The flight that they offered me at a very reduced rate said, I'm going to fly from Minneapolis to Houston, Texas. And after that, you're going to change planes and we're going to fly to Jackson, Mississippi. And after that, we're going to move on from Jackson, Mississippi to Atlanta, Georgia. Now, that would start out at 7 in the morning with the first flight, and I was going to land at 3 o'clock with all the potential for a fiasco to happen. Yes. At any moment, if any one of those flights were off schedule, I was going to miss the next connection. And like a domino theory, I would not be here tonight to teach this class. But in consciousness, I just said that. I said to my partner, Dave, earlier, I'm believing everything is working together for good. I'm believing that and living in that consciousness. Now, when I boarded the plane, Southwest Airlines also has this, first come, first serve on the seat. Cattle call, whoever shows up first gets the seat better. The rest, the plane could be full and you're left to whatever to pick from. And I was thinking, okay, I look at my boarding pass and I'm way in the back of the ability to get in line. I'm in the latter portion of the lineup, and there are maybe 10 people out behind me. So that means this plane is going to be pretty full, and there probably won't be any kind of seat for me. But then I held in consciousness, all things are working together for good. So when I boarded the plane, my favorite seat is the front row bulkhead. Plenty of room to stretch out. And lo and behold, I'm one of the last ones to walk on the plane, thinking it's all packed and full, and the stewardess is saying, you're lucky, just look for some middle seat anywhere you can find one. Be cramped and crowded in and sit the rest of your flight like this. Lo and behold, my favorite seat's right open. It's in the front row. There's a gentleman there with an open seat and my seat by the window. Hallelujah. God makes a way when there seems to be no way. In logic, we say, well, that should have been chosen a long time ago by all the people ahead of you. Then, of course, there's the thinking, this plane, it's probably going to arrive late to, Houston, and you've only got 30 minutes to connect with your next flight. Lo and behold, we're flying, and the pilot comes out, and I'm right there up front, and is talking to the steward and said, we're flying so easily and smoothly today. The weather is perfect. We're going to arrive 30 minutes early. We're going to prepare for extreme early arrival. We get there, we arrive early, and of course then the conversation is, oh dear, we arrived too early. There may not be an open gate for us. That means we'll sit on the tarmac in the heat and just the plane baking away while we're waiting in the Houston temperatures for some gate to open up that may be just at the last minute, which could create more complications. But what happens? We pull off the tarmac, the plane lands and drives right into gate 41, which is open. They just informed you. Gate 27, which you were at, we don't have to wait for that. We're just got an open gate. We're going to put you at gate 41. And they're announcing all flight connections have been changed. You're now coming at 8:41. And I'm the first one off the plane because of my prime seat. I have an hour now for my next flight connection. And I'm thinking this is going so smoothly because what? All things work together for good when we have this kind of consciousness, right? When we believe that we're living in divine flow, it's not just about money, it's about everything within our life. So the next flight is a connection to Jackson, Mississippi. And I'm thinking, okay, I'll look at my boarding pass. Once again, I'm at the back. I'm going to be one of the last ones to board on. Okay, I'm thinking, no, everything's working together so smoothly and beautifully. I'm going to have the right perfect seat. I'm already claiming that. And so when I come on board, the stewardess again says, you're one of the last ones. Find yourself, middle row seat. I'm walking down the aisle. I'm thinking, okay, God, where am I supposed to sit? What's the perfect seat you've got for me? Since it's maybe a middle seat, you know exactly the desires of my heart. I sit down to this couple and the man's on the aisle, the woman's at the window, and there's open seat. And I said, good morning. I guess I'm going to be your flight partner. The man gets up and moves into the middle seat. And I said, what? You don't want this lovely aisle seat? He goes, no, I want to sit next to my wife. I said, well, I hate to come in between you two, so I'll take that aisle seat. All right. Again, a perfect seat, wonderful place to sit and relax. It was just an enjoyable flight. Now we're leaving, headed now towards Atlanta. And as we dropped off in Jackson, Mississippi, about 60 people got off the plane because that was their destination. And only 20 people got on. And the steward says, we're wide open. Anyone want to move to an even better seat? Go ahead. Well, I certainly took opportunity of that and allowed the husband and wife to have even more space to spread out. And it was just blessing after blessing, arriving so smoothly and beautifully, landing early in Atlanta, not late, early. And then Dave coming to pick me up at the airport, circling around and thinking, oh, he's going to go around and around and around and around and around, waiting for me. And lo and behold, he pulls right up and I'm walking right out and bingo, we get in. All things work together for good. Now, what am I demonstrating for you? A simple awareness that the divine flow of goodness is always available to us in every circumstance. The windows of heaven are ready to open up. That is a consciousness of the goodness, that your mind is opening up to this wonderful awareness. I'm in the good hands of Allstate. I'm in the good hands of God. That's right. I'm in this wonderful, wonderful place of infinite blessing and infinite good. That's where I live. It's going to be financial blessing. It's going to be this blessing and that blessing, health and wellness, love and grace. It's unflowing because that's the attitude that I have. And I invite you to embrace the same. Jesus clearly says the heaven is within you. It's not a place in space, but an inner potentiality of imprisoned splendor that is released through you. Let the windows of your soul, let the windows of your consciousness, the windows of your thought, spring wide open, ready to receive, ready for the goodness of God to flow into your life. This is what's so important, that we understand that God can do more for us than God can do through us. That's right. God can do more for us than what God can even do through us. We think about the wonderful ways that God can work through our lives, but there's more. There's even more out there. There's more that can flow. There's so much coming through us, and we may think, oh, the divine flow that flows through my life, through my consciousness, through the heaven within me, through the awareness, there's this divine flow. It's limited. It may be small. No, there's so much more. Allow it to flow through you, for God can do more for us than what He's even flowing through you right now. There's more yet to come. So the purpose of giving is not to receive, but to give. And the moment we focus on receiving, we begin to lose the flow of giving, because it's about release. It's about putting out. It's not about getting. It's about releasing, but knowing that more is coming, to release more, not to get, but to release. More is coming, to release, because it's all about the giving, not the getting. So give to give, to give, to give more. That's right. Because what we're doing is just letting flow faster and faster. We're like breaking the dam down and letting the river flow and let it gush and let it rush through us and let it not be dammed up and hoarded back and pushed back, because unfortunately, we kind of build dikes in our life like they do in Holland to push back the water. We build these dikes in our consciousness that say there's not enough. And what we're actually doing is hoarding back the goodness. We're pushing it back. We're restricting a divine flow. We're restricting that which wants to flow in and through our lives at all times. Now, this is the teaching of Jesus. This is the teaching of Scripture. Old Testament, New Testament. All speaking of our prosperity and our blessing. It's not something that's created. It's an ancient truth. It's a law that's been around and lived out for thousands of years and demonstrated by those who take on a giving attitude, an attitude of generosity. That's the big difference. So tonight, it's all about a new look on our prosperity, a new look on tithing, a new look on the infinite blessings that are waiting for us. Let's open up the windows of heaven. Let's allow the free flow of the divine to take place. Let's tear down those dams, tear down those walls, tear down those barriers, and let's let the goodness of God flow in and through our life at all times. It'll happen in your finances. It'll happen in every aspect of your life. It'll happen in every and any area that you will allow a consciousness of divine flow to take place within you. It's there. It's a spiritual law. Well, thanks for joining us tonight in this class. And I'd love to hear what your takeaway is. So what spoke to you tonight? What aha moment? What's your you're going to take away in what I call your spiritual Tupperware? You know, some little leftovers you're going to take away to kind of munch on later on. Let me think about that. I'm going to take this home. You know, something good or something some revelation you had. We'd love to hear from you. Those of you who are joining us through our live streaming, I'd love to hear from you as well. So if you take a moment to type in a comment or some sort of, this is what I'm taking away, I'd love to hear from you. It's always great to know what speaks to one another, because not only hearing it does it bless me, but I also learn from each and every one as to what you've received. So you're teaching back to me. You're helping me experience more. And this is a horizontal experience, not a top-down teacher telling you that you don't know anything. I want to know what you know. I want to hear what you've experienced. So I'd love to hear that. And so while we're waiting to hear from you all who are joining us through live streaming, let's go around our room and let's hear from our students who are gathered in person study today. And I'm going to start at the back with Steve. Let's start with Steve Ginn. What's your takeaway?
Well, no new revelations, just that when you do give, make sure your attitude is in its, the right attitude. Because if it's not, then your giving is really not genuine. You're not gonna really be in divine flow if it's not the right attitude.
Right. Because the attitude of generosity is simple release. An attitude that's begrudging is like, I'll let it go, but I don't really want, you see, that's not releasing, that's not giving. It's then, okay, but the real spirit of generosity is a flow. It's a release. It's a confidence. It's an assurance. It's a step of faith. It's a believing. All things are working together for good. I release. I let go. Dr. David Carter, let's hear from you.
I have two takeaways. My first one is we are in the stream of God's goodness that is forever flowing. And my second takeaway is on page 3 in bold print. It says, God can do no more for us than God can do through us. So since the kingdom of heaven is within me, I don't need to look to people outside of me to bless me, because it's going to come from within me, and I'll draw everything to me that I need.
That's right. We don't need to look to outside sources. It's already happening within. Let it happen. Open the windows of heaven. Let's go to Dave over here. Tell us what your takeaway is.
I have two. The first one is give God a chance to bless you when you give abundantly with a cheerful heart. The second one is every seed that is sown brings a harvest.
Beautiful. Excellent. Kathy, what's your takeaway?
I had to. How can I be a better conduit to utilize the tools given to me to give more and be more?
Beautiful.
And for me to think about things, don't let anything diminish the love and joy that I can give.
Right. Beautiful. Because these negative thoughts that are fear-based do want to diminish the joy of giving. Well, if I give, there may not be enough. If I share, or what will they use the money for? Are they going to really do it wisely? You know, what happens is all that just takes away the joy of giving. Anyone buy a Christmas present for your grandson or your granddaughter and say, you know, what are they going to do with this? I don't know if I believe. You know, we do it because we love to see their faces light up. We love the experience of joy, of giving and sharing. We're generous. We love that because the joy of giving makes us feel so powerful and amazing, good, and affirming of the goodness of God. So don't let anything diminish or take that away. Wonderful. Now, do we have anyone offering comments from our students who are online with us tonight? I know there's several students that let to me that they wouldn't be able to be with us, but they would be viewing the class on another date. So thank you so much for doing that. We appreciate those who are letting us know. But we'll look forward to you receiving all this great insight throughout the days ahead as you find it on our Facebook page. You can always find our classes library, or you can go to our YouTube channel, which is City of Light Atlanta. You go there, type it in. You'll find lots of classes, previous classes on this spiritual economics. If you've missed any, they're right there. You can go back and enjoy any one of these teachings. God bless you. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. I'm so glad for each and every one of you who are here to experience this wonderful unfolding of spiritual law, of truth that works in our life, the joy of being generous. And the generosity that flows in us is abundant and it is consistent. It is always there. It is always flowing as we just simply allow that goodness of God to flow through our lives. God bless you. I look forward to seeing you next week as we continue on Tuesday night, 7 p.m., Spiritual Economics. It's our last class in our series, so let's enjoy this wonderful teaching together. We look forward to seeing you then. Have a great week.